Well, hello, my friend. Welcome back to another episode of the From Chaos to Peace podcast, where I talk about how clutter is so much more than you think, and we put a spiritual twist on clearing that clutter to get organized. Thank you so much for allowing me back into your ears. Well, hello, my friend. I'm your host, Conny Graf. Welcome to the podcast, and thank you so much for being here. Today, I want to revisit something I talked about way back. First, in a blog post I wrote in August 2015, 10 years ago, and then again in episode 158 of this podcast. That was in August 2022. The topic is how batching can actually sabotage us and lead to procrastination. Now, I don't just want to repeat what I already said in episode 158. You can go and listen to that one. It's still relevant. The reason I bring it up today is that I just finished Dan Martell's book, Buy Back Your Time. And to start with, I want to say I loved the book. It's excellent. It has so many great practical tips in it. And he also talks about batching tasks. Specifically, he talks about batching tasks you hate and then batching them all in one single day of the month. And so he gives the example of entrepreneurs who dread dealing with finances. And then he suggests instead of doing it daily or weekly, they could schedule one day a month and get it all done in that one day. And he says this way they don't have to think about it again for another month. And it's done, and energy and time saved, and whatever. Sounds good in a way, right? But it might not work that good. At least in my experience. So let's look at it. First, let's start real quick with what batching actually is. So it means that you group similar tasks together and block time off to do them all in one go, just like Dan suggested in his book with the finance tasks, to batch them all in one day a month. And all the tasks that you dread, apparently, and do them all in this one day. Now, I have other examples. For example, if you have a podcast like me, you could plan a day to write or not all, but several scripts. Then you could batch record them on another day. And then you could, again on another day, edit them all together. So that would be batching. Or if you're more writing blog posts, you could on one day brainstorm a bunch of topics. Another day you outline all these brainstormed topics, and then again on another day you start writing all these blog posts. So I think you get the idea, right? Batching. And Dan is actually not the only one who suggests batching. And there is so many productivity gurus or experts out there that say batching is the best. The productivity world loves batching, and they all say it helps us to reduce procrastination, boost creativity and focus, save time, avoid distractions, and reduce stress. The thing is, in my experience, when we're batching, especially when we're batching daunting tasks, that they become even more daunting and very overwhelming until they are kind of monsters that keep us up at night. And then if the task feels heavy and annoying to begin with, batching actually makes it feel even worse. And again, then they grow into monsters. And when we see such a day with these dreaded tasks come up, we will find all the excuses why it's not a good idea to do that day. There is more important things to do. We don't feel like it. We're under the weather. Whatever, right? Like we find anything and everything that speaks against doing this whole day of dreaded tasks. In short, we end up procrastinating, pushing it again to another day in the future, possibly so far in the future that we get some relief from having it pushed away from our calendar, right? And we do that by telling ourselves, well, that day we were actually going to do it then, and that day it will work much better then. Pushing all these dreaded tasks onto our future self. Oh my God. So, ask me how I know. So while the experts actually claim that batching improves productivity and saves time and energy, here is my opinion. Batching often results in procrastination, especially if we're not wired to work that way. And this is why my credo and my motto is a few minutes a day keeps the chaos away. Because instead of cramming everything into one massive session that overwhelms us, that we feel dread about, let's build gentle, sustainable systems like habits. That's why I'm saying a few minutes a day, here and there. And that's not context switching. It's just having these systems and habits in place on a regular basis, especially in finances and keeping our workspace organized and our digital life organized, is actually so much less daunting. Now, again, that doesn't mean we're constantly context switch and go from task to task. What we're doing is we're having maybe a short morning routine, or we have just a 5-minute cleanup session at the end of the day, or we have a weekly check-in with our finances. We can also have an accountability partner around this. And this is actually, for a lot of people, way more productive than trying to batch these things all into one big day and pushing this huge boulder in front of us because we actually don't want to do it. So in my eyes, a few minutes a day keeps the chaos away, and it takes care of these daunting tasks in a way that it's easier and feels effortless when we're getting into a good rhythm, right? And especially when it comes to finances, I have a finance background, and I really feel like, especially when it comes to finances, you want to be up to date with your finances, no matter how small your business is. The only way you are in control of your numbers and you're not flying blind or driving blind is if you know what's going on and if you're up to date on your cash flow. So you need to have some cash flow management in place, and that's so much easier to do that. Maybe not every day if you're a small business, but at least once a week, just to check in real quick. And that check-in can be, if you really have it set up in a good way for you and aligned with you, it could be a check-in for 5 or 10 minutes. Just imagine how that would be if you just had to check in once a week for 5-10 minutes, and then your finances would actually be taken care of, rather than thinking that at the end of the month, or whatever date you decided is your daunting task batch day, you would have to look at that, and I couldn't sleep this way. So now I want to, of course, say if batching does work for you, that is great. I don't say anything against it. But what I want to say is, if it doesn't work for you, I want to tell you, you're not broken. You're just wired differently. You're more wired like me, right? I really haven't been able to batch, and for sure not batch dreaded tasks. So, I often talk about the 4 elements: fire, earth, air, and water. And let's just look real quick how they would deal with batching. So fire types, they're full of energy and ambition, and they love the idea of batching in a way. They get excited about it, but then it gets boring very quickly. They may start strong, but they lose steam if it gets too repetitive. So a whole day of dreaded tasks, forget it. For a fire type, batching is restrictive dull and daunting. And yeah, I don't suggest it, right? Earth types, on the other side, are the batching pros, and they thrive with structure and routines, and batching might feel like a dream if you're an Earth type. So maybe all these productivity gurus are Earth types. Who knows? The only caveat I want to say is be mindful to not get stuck in rigidness or perfectionism, right? Like every month at this day I have to do exactly this. No, give yourself some leeway. Then Earth types, not Earth types, we just talked about Earth types, air types. So air types really love the idea of batching. And they might even brainstorm all the things and have it all in their head, planned out and everything. But in practice, yeah, air types, they get distracted. They bounce between tasks, and they may during the day forget all about the batching session. So most likely not a good idea for you. In theory, it might work, not so much in practice, unless you're forced to. And that's not the idea, right? We don't want to force ourselves. And then water types, you need to feel emotionally aligned to be productive. And batching can really feel cold or too rigid for you, most likely way too rigid. You work better when you are in a flow, with comfort, calm, and emotional resonance. And if you probably have dreaded tasks too, but you couldn't do a whole day of dreaded tasks. For sure not. So in short, I think it's mostly Earth types that can handle batching really well. The others might be able to force themselves into it, but that's, I think, not the idea. Now, if you are a fire, air, or water type and batching works for you, I would love to hear it. Reach out to me and tell me all about how it works for you. Maybe I approach it wrong and I can learn something from you. And if you don't know what your elemental type is yet, you can take my quiz. You find the link in the show notes. And then you can find your natural style. And then you can use that to your advantage in work and in life. So to wrap up, batching can save time and boost productivity for some people. And for others, it can lead to dread, procrastination, and even avoidance. And let's always remember, we're all wired differently, and that's okay. You're not broken, and you are enough, and you don't have to do what the productivity gurus say. I advocate that you figure out what works for you, and you find your own systems and habits, how to get things done. And if you're struggling with any form of clutter and chaos in your finances or your workspace, in your home, you can bring your chaos to me. And then together we can create simple systems and processes to help you get organized in a few minutes a day, all by taking in account what type you are, whether you're a fire type, an earth type, an air type, or a water type. You find the link for a free consultation in the show notes. I would love to have a consultation with you and see how we can work together and how it could benefit you to create more peace in your life and business. Okay, my friend, that's it for today. Have a beautiful and amazing week. Talk to you next time. Take good care and be safe.